At some point in the season, it's likely that you're not going to feel like training for whatever reason. And whether you come up with an excuse for yourself, your training partner, or your coach, it doesn't really matter. Deep down, you know it's an excuse and that it probably could have been avoided. So today, I'm going to be covering the most commonly used excuses for missing a training session, and more importantly, the tips on how to avoid them occurring in the first place. This has to be the most common excuse. We choose to do 3 sports, and most of us juggle a job, then have social and/or family commitments as well. So, of course, we don't have enough time. Having said that, though, for some reason, we choose to do triathlon, and we do manage to fit the training in, so we know that it's possible. Yes, I get that there are only 24 hours in a day, but being organised and having forward planning will give you the best opportunity to be able to complete that training session. And also you need to be flexible. So, for example, if you have a long run or a long steady cycle, think about being able to adapt that. For example, if it is a long bike ride that you need to do, how about changing it to do it on the turbo so you can make it shorter and more intense, and also you don't need to waste time cleaning your bike afterwards. Whichever sport you're doing, a fair amount of kit is required, and whether you're going straight from training to work or out for coffee, the idea of carrying your sweaty kit around or a soggy towel probably doesn't appeal. You might well find that your local gym or work will actually provide you with lockers where you can leave your kit. And if you find yourself commuting, either cycling, walking or running, then travel light on those days, and the other days when maybe the weather's bad and you're going by public transport or driving in, then you can take the rest of your kit with you. And another alternative, just invest in a nice kit bag that you don't mind carrying around with you, and it won't interfere with your plans. Okay, this one gets me. I still think that if it's darkness, that means bedtime, or at least a glass of wine if it's the evening, or pressing a snooze button if it's still dark in the morning. But depending on where you live, this could severely hamper your training, especially if you have a long, dark winter, or if you live near the equator, then it could affect you all year round. At the beginning of the day, getting up in the dark really is one of the hardest things, but there are a few tips that you can use to help you. For example, you could set your alarm and leave it the other side of the room, so you've at least had to get out of bed and you're halfway there. And another thing that I have to do, especially if I'm going swimming early in the morning, is pack my bag the night before, and then at least I don't have to think, just got to get up and leave. Also, you could use one of those lights that comes on gradually, so by the time your alarm goes off, your room is nice and light, and hopefully that's going to make it a little bit easier. And then at the other end of the day, it's advisable to try and go straight to training from whatever you finish doing. So whether that's going straight from work, not coming home and sitting on the sofa, because then your session is far less likely to happen. And that's the motivation side, but then there's the practical side with training in the dark. So if you are going to go running in the dark, for example, plan your route where there's going to be street lights, or go to the gym. Or if you are going to run somewhere a little further afield and you want to still have that adventure in your run, invest in some good lights or a head torch, and always wear reflective, bright clothing. Let's admit it, if it's not on Strava, it doesn't count. Well, that's what they say, but it isn't actually entirely true. Although I have had that sinking feeling when I've forgotten to press start on my watch, or the battery's died midway through. But the training effect is still exactly the same on my body. It just means that I can't boast about it on social media platforms. Does this matter? Some people might say yes, but fear not, there are actually ways in which you can dampen the loss of your training session. For example, if you've done your run or your ride with a friend, you can just ask them to share it, and then it can actually come up on your feed as though you've completed it with them. Another option, if you've done the route previously, you can just then find that and then download it onto your Training Peaks, for example, or you can even manually add it into certain programs such as Training Peaks, so your session will still turn green. But if all of that is not enough, probably a sign that you need a little bit of a sports technology detox. I dare you to try and go 2 days without uploading any of your training. We've all done it. We've got home tired after training, jumped straight in the shower, had some food, watched television and gone to bed, and then not realised till the next morning that you forgot to take your kit out, wash it and dry it. Well, it's not very pleasant, but realistically, it's not actually going to hurt you to wear that kit again, although it might be a little offensive to your friends. Or if you do have to recycle your kit, then you might need to do that training session on your own, or at least run or cycle downwind of those you're riding or running with. And I must admit, at Running Club, I have had to reposition myself in the group from a few smelly t-shirts before now. Do doing anything when you're hungry is difficult, and it does depend on what level of hunger we're talking. You need to work out whether it's just the thought of going training instead of having that nice hot meal that you can smell when you get home, or if it is actually hunger. And then first of all, make sure you're adequately hydrated, because that can actually disguise itself as hunger sometimes. And if you are still hungry, then just have a pre-training snack. And I make sure I've always got some emergency snacks in my bag if that does happen to me, so it doesn't get in the way of my next training session. If you've done an intense session or trained in a hot environment, it's likely that your body temperature is going to take a while to cool down. And then add to that, trying to get changed in a hot, humid changing room, especially if you're in a hurry, it's going to take even longer, and that often results in that red face look many of us experience. And for example, if you've been swimming, you might even have goggle rings or hat marks to add to that. And that's not really the type of look that you're going to want for your first work meeting of the day. If you do have the option of a cold shower for a few seconds, isn't pleasant at the time, but it will definitely help reduce your body temperature, or even just splashing some cold water on your face. And make sure you allow yourself enough time so you're not getting changed in a rush. But if that still doesn't help, then you could be worth investigating and getting some face cooling cream, or even dabbling in a little bit of makeup. I really could go on, and you've probably realised that I'm really a little too good at these excuses, but I think that's enough for one day. Hopefully you don't find yourself using any of these excuses, but if you do, you've at least got methods in which to overcome them and make sure you get that session completed, because trust me, the feeling afterwards is definitely worth it. If you've enjoyed this, hit the thumb up like button, hit the globe to subscribe to make sure you get all of our videos here at GTN. And if you do struggle with time being an issue when it comes to your training, we've made a video for strategies to deal with that just here. And if you want to know how to avoid junk miles when it comes to cycling, you can check out this video here.